Is that canned vanilla frosting you've been using just too boring? Well, if you're looking to kick it up a few notches, you're in luck. From adding jelly to mixing in bacon, these simple hacks will take your pre-made frosting to the next level. Ready-made frosting is the ultimate time saver. You can just let your cake cool and then spread it on right from the can. But here's the thing. Just because you can use pre-made frosting straight from the package it comes in, that doesn't mean you should. One of the biggest problems many people have with canned frosting is that it just isn't as light and fluffy as the frosting you make yourself.
Frosting?
Luckily, this is one problem that's easy to fix. Instead of using your frosting as is, transfer it into a bowl or mixer and whip it before you use it. Make sure your frosting is room temperature so it whips easily. Start at a low speed and increase gradually as it gets lighter. This will help you avoid splatters. Most importantly, as you whip, watch for the formation of fluffy billows in the frosting. This is a sign that the frosting is becoming smoother and creamier. If your frosting seems too stiff while whipping, add a small amount of milk or cream to thin it slightly. Another common problem many people have with pre-made frosting is that it just doesn't come in enough flavors, but this too can be easily remedied. Whether you decide to whip your frosting or not, you should still transfer it out of the can it comes in and into a mixing bowl. Why? So you can add your own custom flavors. Vanilla is the most versatile flavor and the one that you can adapt in the most ways. Once you have it in a bowl, consider adding a few drops of whatever flavor extract you're in the mood for. Just remember a couple of essential rules as you play. Extracts are potent, and a little goes a long way. Start with a few drops, mix the frosting well, and then add more if needed. Try to stick to complementary flavors you know will work well together. Flavor extracts aren't the only way to add vibrant flavor to pre-made frostings. You can also use fresh citrus fruit. The tart zest, or thin outer peel, of lime, lemon, grapefruit, or orange pairs perfectly well with the rich, buttery sweetness of frosting. You'll need approximately 1 to 2 teaspoons of zest for 1 tub of frosting. Just measure out your zest, add it to the frosting, and mix well.
Zesty!
For even more of a citrus blast in your frosting, you can also add a dash of fresh citrus juice. Grab a juicer and squeeze out some fresh juice from whatever citrus fruits you've been zesting. Then add 1 to 2 tablespoons of that juice to your frost and stir well. Just be careful not to use too much. You don't want to risk your frosting ending up too thin. You could also use a small amount of bottled lemon or lime juice from your fridge, or even a splash of fresh OJ, with or without pulp. Like zest, added spices are another fantastic way to turn standard flavored frostings into something extraordinary. For vanilla frosting, consider spicy additions like cinnamon, nutmeg, or ground ginger. Cinnamon is also great with chocolate frosting. You can also use spice blends like pumpkin pie spice or chai spice in either flavor of frosting as well. Both will provide an even richer and more robust flavor profile to your dessert. As with any flavoring you add to something you're cooking, remember to start small. Use less than you think you might need, mix it in, and give it a taste. Then add more spice or flavoring if needed. It's always possible to add more flavor, but you can never take it away if you are too heavy-handed at the start. Another great way to upgrade canned chocolate frosting is with the addition of even more chocolate. Think of it this way: you can never have too much of a good thing. It's the same reason why you might take an already delicious chocolate cake mix and add ingredients to it. Those additions just make the cake even more scrumptious. With frosting, adding chocolate not only deepens the flavor, but also makes it even richer and more satisfying once you spread it on your cake or anything else you're looking to frost. Melted chocolate squares are an ideal frosting addition. Melt 3 to 4 or about 3 to 4 ounces, and then gradually fold that melted chocolate into your pre-made frosting. You can do the same thing with a half cup of melted chocolate chips. You can also use hot chocolate mix and even chocolate syrup if you'd like. Flavor extracts are great, but with fruit in particular, nothing's better than the real thing. If you're on the hunt for a fresh, natural-tasting strawberry, raspberry, or grape frosting that tastes like it's straight from the garden, then why not turn to jams and jellies to upgrade your pre-made frosting? For instance, you could start with a tub of vanilla frosting and transfer it into a mixing bowl. Then add 2 to 3 tablespoons of chunky strawberry jelly. If possible, opt for a thicker, more concentrated brand versus one that is runny or contains a lot of liquid. Your frosting will stand up better. Whatever you choose, mix the two well. When done, put the frosting in the fridge to chill and set, and then frost your cake as normal. You can already buy cream cheese flavored frosting, but why not go one better and add actual fresh cream cheese to your frosting instead? Nothing compares to the rich, velvety texture of fresh cream cheese, and adding it to a pre-made frosting is the perfect way to increase its creaminess and make it even smoother, lusher, and more flavorful.
Cream cheese.
To get started, measure out approximately 4 to 8 ounces of cream cheese and let it come to room temperature. This will make it easier to blend and ensure a smooth texture. You can combine the cream cheese and frosting by hand, but a stand mixer or hand mixer are better options. Both will ensure the frosting and cream cheese are perfectly blended and that the final frosting ends up nice and fluffy, ready to spread on a cake. Be careful to mix the two only until the frosting and cream cheese are well combined. You don't want to overmix. For a similarly creamy and decadent frosting, you could also swap that cream cheese for fresh whipped cream or Cool Whip. Just combine combine the pre-made frosting and whipped topping with a hand mixer or stand mixer, again being careful not to overmix. Then spread that light and airy frosting directly onto your cake and serve immediately. Are you a peanut butter fanatic? If so, you've likely noticed that pre-made peanut butter frosting is almost impossible to find in most grocery stores and markets. But that doesn't mean you can't make your own, simply by upgrading a tub of pre-made vanilla frosting. To perform this super easy hack, all you need to do is dump your tub of canned frosting into a bowl, and then add a quarter to a half cup of your favorite peanut butter. Make sure the peanut butter is at room temperature. Then mix the frosting and peanut butter a little bit at a time until both are well combined and perfectly creamy. Although chunky peanut butter can be mixed with frosting, you'll end up with smoother frosting overall if you use a creamy brand of peanut butter to start. Nut butters like almond, cashew, and even hazelnut spread are also wonderful potential frosting additions. And don't limit yourself to vanilla frosting alone. Each of these mouthwatering spreads will also work perfectly with a chocolate-flavored frosting as well. When looking to upgrade canned frosting, don't forget that ingredients that add texture to the frosting are just as important as those that add flavor. Toasted coconut is one perfect option for adding both. Grated toasted coconut is more than just nutty and filled with complex, smoky, caramelized flavor. It also packs that delightful crunch. It's crisp and chewy and full of all that flavor and texture that only comes from the tropics. First, add between a half and 1 cup of coconut into a bowl and mix well. In addition to toasted coconut, you could also use shredded coconut, coconut flakes, or even diced coconut chips. Since it's a dry ingredient, coconut shouldn't impact the consistency of your frosting significantly, so feel free to use as little or as much as you like. In addition to coconut, you can also add texture and crunch to frosting with a wide variety of other ingredients. Chopped pecans, almonds, or pistachios are all wonderful options for adding nutty flavors and texture to frosting. You could also use diced dried fruit, including raisins, cranberries, or apricots. Or for an expected yet delicious twist on standard frostings, try mixing granola or even crushed pretzel pieces into your frosting before you spread it on your cake, cookies, or brownies. Cookies and candies are also amazing additions to frosting, adding flavor and crunch to whatever baked good you're making. You can add a half cup or more to any can of pre-made canned frosting to upgrade it considerably. Just combine the cookies or crushed candy, mix well, chill, and frost. Making a chocolate-based dessert, you can add crushed Oreos, chocolate-covered espresso beans, brownie chunks, toffee bits, or even crushed chocolate-covered peanuts to your frosting. For a vanilla frosting, consider crushed vanilla wafers, crumbled sugar cookies, crushed lemon shortbread, graham crackers, or even ginger snaps. Crushed candy is yet another indulgent and delicious way to add flavor and crunch to frosting. Just select the candy of your choice and then run it through your blender or food processor to chop it into relatively fine pieces. You don't want your frosting too chunky. Peppermint candy, M&Ms, Skittles, Reese's Pieces, and even those butterscotch candies your grandparents likely kept sitting around in bowls are all perfect options. Whatever you pick, just make sure you crush or chop it as uniformly as possible so that the pieces are all relatively the same size. Mix gently and don't overmix. You don't want your frosting to turn stiff or dense. And if your frosting does start to become too thick or stiff to spread, remember that you can add a small splash of milk, liquid, or juice to help to thin it out and make it more manageable. Finally, when it comes to incredible and delicious ways to upgrade pre-made frosting, don't forget bacon. It really does make everything taste better.
Yeah, but bacon tastes good.
Adding cooked crumbled bacon to frosting is the ideal way to create the perfect blend of salty and sweet that so many of us are obsessed with. It's the perfect layering of flavors that excites all of our taste buds and sends the brain into hyperdrive. Crumbled bacon pairs well with vanilla and chocolate-flavored frosting in particular. To whip up this incredible concoction, you'll first need around 4 to 6 strips of cooked crumbled bacon. Then just fold the bacon into the frosting as you would any other ingredient. Make sure the crumbles are well drained. You might even blot them with a paper towel before use to remove any excess grease. You can also garnish your frosted cake, cupcakes, or brownies with even more bacon crumbles on top of the frosting before serving. Just remember that since your dessert now includes meat, it should be stored in the fridge rather than being left out on the cupboard for an extended period. If you don't have bacon on hand, a light dusting of bacon-flavored salt would also be a great frosting addition. Or you could also garnish your frosted dessert with those crunchy, pre-cooked bacon bits you typically use in salad. But of course, real bacon is better.